All right, so we had a special election yesterday in Iowa in the state Senate seat in the first district, and the Democrats won. This has been talked about on the news over the last 48 hours. I figured we'd delve into the precinct level data. So we're going to go ahead and delve into that today, compare it to the presidential election results, see if there's anything that we can glean out of it as far as the 2026 and 2028 elections, or is it something that we're looking too much into? So we're going to delve into that today, look at the election, look at the precinct results, and see what we can come up with. So we're going to dive into that. This is a district that Donald Trump won 55 to 45% in the presidential election. The Democrat yesterday won it 55 to 45. So we're talking about a big flip. So let's go ahead and delve into the 2024 election at the presidential level, see what it looked like. Then let's see what the flip was and see where the raw and percentage votes were lost in the district. So this is the 2024 results here. So we can see that Kamala Harris got between 50 and 60%, well, almost 55 and 60% in and around Sioux City. So her strength was there, but as you get outside of Sioux City, you see Donald Trump with those same 55 to 60% results, going up, I think, a little bit higher, 62%. Then you have this one big rural-ish precinct right here. As you can see, 79%, 80% for Donald Trump. Now, a lot of people look at big precincts like this and say, hey, listen, that must be a real rural nothing burger of a precinct. But if you look at this precinct for, let's look at this precinct that Kamala Harris won. As you can see, you have 542 votes total for Harris and Trump. Now, I should mention that these percentages and these numbers don't include minor party candidates, so it's only the major party vote. And I did that because yesterday was a major party vote election. I think there was a write-in option as well. But as you can see, there's 542 in precinct 8. But when you get to precinct 17, you can see Trump alone had 1,198 votes. So yes, it is a big rural area, but it does seem to be the thing that pulls the district a certain way. So this was a 55-45 result for Donald Trump. Now, let's look at yesterday's result, 55-45 for the Democrat. As you can see, Sioux City went up significantly. So if we look at the old results, and we can see 57% in precinct 8 here, if we go over here, we have 77%. We saw some major swings in and around Sioux City. So the precincts that were stronger just got even stronger this time around. Maybe this one, precinct 11, was the only difference, that it really didn't swing that much, on the south side of Sioux City. So I have 58.6%. It was yesterday, but in the presidential election, it was 57.3%. So there wasn't much here, but all these other precincts strongly went to the Democrats. But the most important thing here are two things. One, these precincts out and around Sioux City, with the exception of this one, which was almost won by the Democrat, these precincts swung quite heavily. So as you can see here, 57%, this one was a very close one, but 56, 57% there, 55%. 59%, 54%. So let's look at this precinct 19 here. The Democrat won it with 59% of the vote. In the presidential election, it was a 52-48 precinct. So these are the kind of places that in this special election, it looks like the Democrats are progressing well in. Now, you have the big precinct out here. As you can see, the percentage did not go down much. So here you can see it was 79-55. And here you have 73, 77. So you don't have much of a drop in the Republican vote here. It still was by far the most Republican precinct. Now, what we're going to do is look at how much of a vote drop there was. We're going to look at percentage, and we're going to look at raw vote total. So what I mean by a drop is that Harris had this amount, the Democrat who ran yesterday had this amount. What was the difference between those two? How much did it fall? Because this is the real story behind whether we can really glean anything out of these or not. Then the Democrat actually had less of a drop in every single precinct than the Republicans. Okay. So the one thing that's quite interesting in our map here is that it's not uniformed. So if we look at this precinct that was 55-45 exactly in 2024, we can see that the Democrats did lose votes. So the Democratic number was essentially 50% less, the raw number, than it was last time, but the Republican number was 75.9% less. Okay, let's look at some of these other precincts, for example. So let's look at this one out here. You can see another. Democrats lost from their 2024 total 54.78% of that 2024 number, but the Republicans lost nearly 75%. This happens even in the stronger Democratic precincts, which means that in the stronger Democratic precincts, the Democrats didn't turn out, or the Republicans didn't turn out at all. So the Democratic loss was 66.5%, so that's pretty significant, but the Republicans were at 87.8%, a huge loss. So you're seeing, and if you look at the bottom number there, for example, minus 21.17, that's the difference between the Democratic loss and Republican loss. So we can see the difference in precinct 5 was 27-28%. But even in these precincts that usually go Republican, we're talking about 12% loss, 15% loss, or difference. 12% loss difference, 15% loss difference, 21% loss difference, 16%, 14%, 17%, 18%. Now when we get to this big precinct 17, we see again that the Democrats, they don't do well in this precinct. Let's go ahead and go back here to the 2024 results. We can see Democrats have 308, the Republicans, or Donald Trump, 1,198. Here, 155, okay, you only had 305 before, but 436, that's a huge drop. 436 down from what? 1,198, okay? So the Republicans lost a ton of raw votes. Their raw vote total was 63% down compared to what it was in the general election in 2024. The Democratic numbers were only down by half. So, is there anything that we can glean from this? Yes and no. The first caveat, and the major caveat with all of these things, is that, well, the first one is, will we have free and fair elections in 2026? That's the big caveat right there. But overall, the big caveat is it is a special election. And I think people try to glean a lot from special elections when it's not there. Sometimes, like the Harris-Wofford, Pennsylvania, 1991 election for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, sometimes we can get some information out of that, but for the most part, these aren't necessarily predictors for the future. Okay, does that mean that the Democrats will win this district in 2026? I'm saying maybe. And the reason why is there is a phenomenon that we are noticing with the Republicans. So with all of these special elections and why Democrats are winning them or performing quite closely in these elections is that these special election numbers are just not dropping off like the Republican numbers are. So that is a big thing to start looking at. And it's not just this district we saw it in. We saw it in the other special election in Iowa. We saw it in Florida. Okay, so that congressional district that Jimmy Patronis ran in, the first congressional district in Florida, more people who were registered Republicans voted in that than Jimmy Patronis, the Republican candidate, got votes. So that meant that if all Democrats in that district and all Republicans in that district voted for the Democrats, then there was still a chunk of Republicans that also voted for the Democrats. So that is the first place that we're actually starting to see vote shifting going the other way. This is a situation where we are looking at voter, a lot less Republicans turning out to vote. And what does this mean? What can we glean from this? One of the hypotheses that I had for 2024, and we'll see if it carries out in 2026, if again we have free and fair elections, again, big asterisk on that one, is that when it comes to this special election, it seems like a lot of the Republican base now is just MAGA, is just Trump. And if Donald Trump himself is not on the ballot, then all of a sudden it collapses. It really does. And we even saw these in the last two midterm elections that we had. Okay, we saw the Democrats do much better than we expected, and it's because we were looking at the presidential election results and trying to use that to determine what the midterms are going to be. And this is a real big switch from what it used to be in the past. In the past, it used to be that the Democrats were the flimsy ones when it came to turning out to vote all the times, but the Republicans were very diligent. But now that the Republicans have become a little bit MAGA, people missing, their minds and everything like that. The cult of personality that you have in MAGA, you now have it that if the cult leader isn't running, then these people are just not turning out to vote. And we're seeing that with every single special election. So do I think these special elections can be a precursor to what voter turnout could be in the midterm elections? I think so, because we have seen that during the Donald Trump era. We saw that in 2018. I mean, not in all states. States like Florida were wiped out, but the red wave, they were talking about the red waves, and in both 2018 and 2022, they were talking about the red waves. They never came. And I think what it is that the cult of personality of Donald Trump really makes it that if he's not running, people aren't engaged. Okay. It'll be interesting to see how this goes, but I do think there's something we can glean out of it. Now, is this a precursor to say, now the Democrats are going to win? No. Again, lots of caveats. It is a special election. We don't know if we're going to have free and fair elections. Well, I mean, free and fair elections. I mean, they're not going to sit there and bring the military into Chicago to see how people vote, right? I'll just leave that one as it is. But, Chicago, DC's, these are called test runs, okay? But I wanted to go over this Iowa election. If you want to, please subscribe. I'll try to do more on this channel. Honestly, my history channel, my election history channel, is doing significantly better, and I'm spending almost 100% of my time on that. When I have a video here, it only gets 1,000 views, but my history channel gets 1,000 views in an hour. Yeah, that's where I'm putting all my efforts right now. But, give me a reason to come back to doing this on a daily or every other day basis. So go ahead and subscribe, like, share the video of people that you know. If you're in politics, please do that. All right, so that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.